Hi guys, Everyday Knife Guy here, and thank you for stopping in to check out the second video in the series that I'm doing, Introduction to Paracord. And if you didn't watch the first part, this is just designed to give you the real basics if you've never really worked with Paracord before. And part one was just all about what the cord is and how to work with it, and some tools you might need, that kind of thing, and a little bit of background information. Video two, we're just going to take a look at three very simple knots, and then probably in video three we'll do some weaves or some slightly more complex stuff. But these three things that we're going to make today assume no real prior knowledge of knot tying or paracord or anything like that. And of course, they're not exclusive to this material. We'll be using 550 cord here today, which is the most common type of paracord, this one here. But it doesn't need to be done with paracord. You could do this with rope, you could do it with twine, whatever. But these knots are fairly simple, and they will give you a feel for what it feels like to tie knots with paracord, and how it works with itself, how it slides on itself, how easy it is to cinch down, and how easy it is to undo again. So that's kind of what I designed this video to be. We're going to go through these three, which are, this is probably the simplest knot you can do really with paracord, but it's a very good grounding knot. It's used in so many things, particularly if you're into making decorative lanyards, bracelets, all that sort of stuff. This is the snake knot. Nice symmetrical looking knot, pretty secure, and very easy to tie. So we'll start with that, and then we'll take a look at this, which is a sliding knot, noose knot, or barrel knot, depending on who you speak to or what you want to call it. And you can see that it's just a simple sliding knot. It can be used to create a noose, or you can use two of them to make a lanyard for your neck, or all sorts of bushcraft or day-to-day uses for this one. This is more a decorative knot, this is more functional, and we'll finish with another knot which is more decorative again. This is the Celtic button knot. It basically makes a little bead out of paracord, and again this is quite useful if you are into making projects with cord, and you can use this as a clasp button on a bracelet, or as a zipper pull, all sorts of different stuff. So that's the third one we're going to make. So without further ado, I'm going to get myself set up to do the first one for you. Okay guys, before we start the snake knot, I really should have mentioned the tools that I have available today. Very basic stuff. A pair of scissors is what you're going to need. I'm using the ones on my Victorinox here. So a pair of sharp scissors, a lighter for singeing the ends of the cord if you do want to snip things off and tidy things up afterwards. We're not actually going to be doing any of that, but if you do want to finish off your projects, then a lighter is very useful. You just melt the end of the cord, wet your fingers so that you don't burn them, and squeeze the end of the cord together just to seal off the end so there's no fraying. Went over all that in video one, so go back and check that if you need a refresher or you're not sure what you're doing. And the other thing that can be useful sometimes is some needle nose pliers. I have these handy, but don't really anticipate using them today. So probably don't really anticipate using any of these tools, to be quite honest with you. But if you're doing these projects for yourself and you're trying to cut sections of cord to do the tying with, you'll definitely need the scissors and the lighter to prepare pieces like this. This is just 1 foot of 550 cord, which I have just snipped out of a hank of cord and sealed both ends so it's ready to start tying with. So we're going to use 1 foot, as I said, for this project. This is the snake knot again, this little symmetrical knot here. I'm going to put that out of the way so hopefully the camera will stay focused on what I'm doing, which is always a bit of a challenge when doing knot tying vids and stuff. So hopefully this will stay in focus for you guys and you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to quit waffling on and get on with the tying. So all we're going to do is we're going to take the knot and make it into a U shape like this, well, an inverse U shape like this. And what I will be talking about mostly, guys, is standing end and working end. Now working end, obviously, as the name suggests, is the end we will be feeding through and actually creating the knot with. So in this case, we're going to take our working end over the top of our standing end, make a loop like so, and then we're going to take this working end round the back of our loop and across like that. So you should have something that looks like this. There's your standing end, there's your working end behind. Okay, now at this point I am just going to pinch the knot here so I hold everything in place. We have a loop down here, our main loop, which will be the top part of our knot that I showed you, and we're now going to take our original standing end and we're going to bring that up behind our original working end, so up behind this piece on the left. And once we bring it up there, I'm just going to shift over into pinching with my left thumb and forefinger, because I'm going to take this end down through this loop here. And I'm going to go over this again for you guys, but I'm just going to go through it first of all and show you what we have. So you should have something that looks roughly like that. It should be looking fairly symmetrical, and as you can see, as we pull that tight, it's going to cinch up to form, oops, we'll pull it a little bit tighter so it stays in place. It's going to cinch up to form that shape there, which is our snake knot. Okay, so fully symmetrical whether you look front or back, it's identical. Symmetrical is the wrong word, identical front and back. So I'm going to do that again for you. Take that out. Okay, so we're going to make our inverse U shape. Okay, hopefully this is staying in focus for you guys. We're going to take our working end over the top of our standing end and back round behind. Okay, now half the challenge here is always trying to show what I'm doing but also keep a hold of the knot. And even when you're tying, the hardest part in paracord really is keeping a hold of everything and keeping it in place. You know, that's the thing you got to master. So this is what you should have. Okay, and then we're going to take our standing end up behind our original working end, over in front of everything, and down through this first loop we created here. Okay, so we're going to go down through there. So now you should have your two ends poking out the bottom. Just grab those, pinch them with this hand, pinch the top of your hoop with the other hand, and as you start to pull it through, you should end up with something that looks symmetrical like that. And you can just keep pulling on that until it's mostly tight, and then you're going to want to switch to just pulling on individual ends. Usually if you pull on the opposite, so I'm pulling on this piece here and this end here, but you want to keep a hold of everything at the same time, otherwise the knot will start to come out. And then you're just going to keep pulling and pulling until everything feels really tight. You can manipulate the knot between your thumb and forefinger, give it a little squeeze and then pull again, and that will just help everything cinch down nice and tight, and that is what you're going to end up with. Okay, if I can get the camera to focus, and I'll show you the original one. This one actually pulled a little bit tighter than the original, but that is the same shape you can see there, and that is your snake knot. Okay, we'll go over in the next video how you can link these together and how you can actually make these with two colors, and all the fancier stuff. But that is a very basic snake knot, super useful in paracord. And yeah, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so next one we're going to do is this sliding knot, which isn't really the prettiest, but it's a functional knot and reasonably easy to tie. A little bit harder than a snake knot, obviously. There's a bit more to it, but I think we can give this a good go. Even if you've never tied anything in your life, you should be able to do this. So let's take our piece of paracord, which is about 1.5 feet, I think. And the first thing we're going to want to do is basically turn this into an S shape. We're going to want to kind of divide it into thirds. Now, that may not seem very clear, but what we're going to do is we're going to bend it over like that so we have an S, okay? But what we want to do is basically move this around in our hands until we have the cord split into approximately thirds. Okay, so I'm just going to lay this down for a second just so you can see what I mean. So we have our S shape, so you have one section, two section, third section. So the S basically takes up the full length of the cord is what I'm trying to say in a really awkward and long-winded sort of way. So we're going to pick up our S, and this one's going to be a little hard to focus, guys, but it can be a little bit tricky with the camera. So what do we want to do? Well, we want to take our working end, which is going to be the top part of the S, and I'm actually going to pinch the whole thing with my non-working hand back here somewhere, okay? That's the first thing. So then we're going to take our working end at the top here, and we're actually going to bring that over the front of everything and down towards us. Okay, so you should have something that looks like that. And then I'm going to take this up round behind and back over towards us again. So we're basically just wrapping over the whole thing and pinching down the S by wrapping over it towards us. And I'm going to try and keep my wrapping reasonably tight as I go. It doesn't need to be super tight, but as we go, I'm going to bring it over again. Okay, so now we have 2 turns there, which is enough to show you guys how the knot works in the first place. So this time, once we come over towards us, we're going to go up behind, but instead of wrapping right around, we're going to pop that little working end up through this loop here, okay? And I'm going to grab that little working end with my thumb and forefinger. Now, all we need to do is cinch this loop down here so it traps that end piece, okay? Now, this top part of the cord over here is what's linked to this, the bottom section of this loop. So I'm just going to gently pull on that. And as I pull on that, I'm just going to move this knot up, tighten it as I go, keep pulling on that cord, and you can see it's pinching down our original working end as we go. I can then let go of that once it has a hold in it, take the whole knot between thumb and forefinger, and keep pulling on this end here. And you'll see the working end gets absolutely trapped by that loop, okay? So if I keep pulling, wrap it around my finger so I can pull it really tight, snug it down, and there you have your sliding knot. So now, if we move back and just grip this end here, we should be able to, between thumb and forefinger, just slide that knot up and down the rope, okay? On the cord rather. Now I haven't done it very tight this time because I want to undo it and show you guys again. And next time we'll try and do a few more turns around, so I'll show you a longer version. Might just do a 3-turn version. This shouldn't be too hard to take out. Just give me a second here. Oops. Okay, so let's start over and do that once more. So we're going to form our S. Okay. So move that through your fingers until you have your S roughly in thirds. Okay, something like that. Oops, this piece is getting a little bit twisted. It's been used a couple of times. Yeah, so there's our S shape, okay? Then I'm going to pinch everything back here with my non-working hand. And this is the loop that we're going to use to trap the working end once we get to that point, remember? So then I'm going to take my working end and I'm going to come over the top of everything towards me. Pinch that there, so that's coming over towards us, if you can see there. And then we're going to go round back and over again. So there's our first turn, round back, over again, round back, over again. I might not have left myself quite enough cord here for 3 turns. So there's 3 turns, and our working end is just a little bit short. Now let's undo that and we'll start over. Don't worry about messing up, guys, it happens all the time, believe me. I just didn't leave myself quite enough cord. Okay, so we'll start over. There's our S shape again, and we'll start right up here this time. And we're going to take our top piece over towards us. Okay, back round, over the top towards us again, towards us again, towards us again. So there we have our 3 turns, and this time I will hopefully have enough of an end, yeah I do, to poke up through that loop there on the left. So at this point, if I can hold it without it completely coming undone on me, this is what you should have. You should have the loop here with your working end through it. You should have 1, 2, 3 coils basically facing you, and you should have your noose loop on the right hand side. So all we're going to do again is, without letting go of too much stuff, we're going to gently pull on this end, which you can see is going to cinch this loop down, and start trapping that end. Make sure the end stays through as the loop tightens, doesn't slip out. And then we're just going to grab the whole knot between thumb and forefinger and pull tight on that. And then you can grab your working end and pull on it too, just to make sure everything snugs down. Now a situation like this can be quite hard in the nails, grabbing that and pulling it with such a short piece. You might want to get your pliers or whatever to grab that end and give it a good tug, but for demonstration purposes I think that'll do. So that should still slide nice and smoothly, it does. It looks fairly neat, this one, not too bad at all. Let's pick up the example piece. Actually looks neater than the example I threw together earlier because it's pulled in a lot tighter. And yeah, that's basically your sliding knot, guys. Shouldn't be too hard to master with a couple of tries. And yeah, I'll do for that one. Let's get on with the final piece. Alright guys, final one we're going to do is this Celtic button knot. Decorative knot, and again, as we go through these videos it'll become apparent how this might be useful for you. So I'm going to get rid of that just now, and we're going to start with about 1.5 feet of 550 cord. Okay, and this is going to be obviously my non-working hand, my working hand, my working end, and my standing end. So let's grab the standing end with my non-working hand, and the first thing I'm going to do is just make a loop in the cord. So if you take this and bring it round in a counterclockwise manner, you should find that you end up with a loop. And the important thing with this loop is that our working end is coming out on top of our standing end, okay? So it's not behind it, it's in front of it. And then we're going to do the same thing again. So grab up here somewhere, go around counterclockwise, twist the cord as you go, and you should find that you've made another loop on top. So these are stacked, as you can see. There's our second loop on top. So you should end up with something that looks like that, okay? From the top down, so there's our second loop, and our first loop behind it. And if I pinch at the top here, you can see that's what it looks like at the bottom, okay? Now let's take our working end, and we're going to go down through this part of the loop here, okay? We're going to come up through the middle here, so down through there, up through the middle, and you guessed it, we're now going down through this loop here, oops, and pull that through, but not all the way, okay? So that should be what you look like now. You've basically woven right through the whole knot. Okay. Now we're going to take our working end and we're going to, let's pull that a little bit tighter, but we still want to preserve this loop here because that's what we're going to use next. So you want to bring your working end round the front, so basically over the top. You can bring it round over the top of your thumb if that's what you're pinching it with. And then we're going to go down this, through this outside hole here, the lowest right hand loop. We're going to go down through there. Okay. And the final thing we need to do is come up through this bottom. There's kind of two triangles here in the middle, approximately, and we're going to come up through the bottom one. Okay, so pull that end, push that end up through there, grab that with forefinger and thumb of your working hand, and you can let go of everything. And with your your non-working hand, grab your original standing end and just gently start to pull out. Now this knot will pretty much go wrong if you just haul on both ends. It's not that simple that it'll just cinch up by itself. But what you should find is if you just kind of manipulate it a little bit as you pull gently simultaneously on both ends, you should find that it ends up roughly in the middle of your cord and that it should kind of form itself into shape as you go. So we're going to do a little bit of that to start with, and then you'll start to find certain places slacker than others. So this piece, for example, here, we're just going to see where that's going and start to pull slack through on it. Push it through. That one's connected to this end. Okay. Now, if you've ever tied a knot in your life, you know how this goes. You just feed the slack through and keep feeding it through on all these different pieces until you can take it out of the knot onto one of these working ends. Blah blah blah. Okay. So you're just going to keep doing that. I'm going to untie this in a second and show you it once more. So I'm not going to tighten this way tight, but basically if you keep doing that carefully, then you should end up with something fairly symmetrical, and you should end up with your Celtic button knot. So I'm just going to tighten a little bit more and then I'll undo it. Okay, that should be connected to this. It is. Okay, so you can start to see it forming there. It should look symmetrical as you go around, and obviously there's a bit of slack. These ones here are still too slack, but let's go ahead and undo that if we can. Oops, I should be able to, if it's slack enough, I should be able to just push on this and find where that is going. Not there. This piece, and start to unweave it. The good thing about Paracord, you'll find as you work with it, is if you do go wrong somewhere, it's usually, unless you've really cranked down it, it's usually fairly easy to undo things again. So that's one of the great kind of attributes of this type of cord. So let's start over. Again, we have our piece of cord. We're going to go counterclockwise to make our first loop. Okay, so loop's coming over on top, or working end's coming over on top rather. We're going to go same thing again, make another loop on top of that. So there's our two loops there. Okay. Looks a little bit like a pretzel shape there. If you see this little triangle shape at the bottom, looks a lot like a pretzel. We're going to take our working end and we're going to come down through this right hand loop, up through the middle, down through the left, and out to the left. Okay. Make sure and leave yourself this loop out here. We're going to take our working end back around the front, down through that loop furthest to the right, and then up through the lower of the two triangles. Okay. So up from behind, through towards you, and as you come towards you, make sure it comes above here, that it's not going under that it's coming above it, straight out towards you, okay? And then just pull gently on both ends, and just kind of manipulate the knot a little bit, pinch it a little bit between finger and thumb as you go, and that should help for everything to kind of come into place as you pull the slack out, okay? And if we just pull steadily on both ends and do that, get most of the slack out, and then we will try and pull a bit tighter on one of these and start to work out what's going where. And again, this is another situation where your needle nose pliers, could be quite useful, because as this gets really tight, it's hard to grab the cords with your nails, and it can be quite easy to break a nail, or really if you bite your nails or you keep your nails short, it can just be difficult to get a hold of them. So it can be useful to have your needle nose pliers handy, just to grab one of the cords and pull it tight. So there you go, that's probably tight enough for demonstration purposes. You can see the pattern forming there, and you just keep pulling the slack and getting it tighter and tighter until you have your button. So that's it, guys. There's our 3 knots for today. I'll put all the versions back on the table. Hopefully that was useful and you quite enjoyed tying those. I find knot tying very relaxing and enjoyable. I know that probably makes me just a bit of a geek, You may find it is, you may find it's just a pain in the ass and it frustrates you and you have to go and have a drink afterwards, in which case probably don't use it for recreational purposes. But I do find it quite relaxing and quite fun tying knots and making different projects with Paracord. So hopefully you will also enjoy the next video where we'll be doing some basic weaves and actually starting to make some things that could be of use. So do check in next time. Not sure when that's coming, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Feedback welcome. Do please leave me comments and let me know if you enjoyed this or if you have any problems I can try and help you with. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Cheers.